Hello viewers, welcome to our lecture series on marketing management, and in our series of discussion on the topic of channels of distribution, which is also regarded as one of the significant P's of marketing mix, and we basically club it under the head of place, which is a third P in the marketing mix, the list of marketing mix, which is called as 4 P's. And we have been discussing about the channels of distribution, what exactly it is, what are the different modes of it, and now it's time for us to conclude this very segment of our discussion on the topic of channels of distribution. So this is going to be part 4 of our lectures on the topic, and here I'll be telling you about the supply chain and distribution channels, the difference between the two, the global sourcing and distribution, sole sourcing versus multiple sourcing, which one is better and why, what are the pros and cons of resorting to either sole sourcing or going for multiple sourcing, which one is better. That is something which I'll be presenting before you, and then we shall talk about the key facts and trends, that what is the recent trend going on in the field of in the corridors of channels of distribution, or which is regarded as the third P of marketing mix, that is called place. When we talk about the place as a significant component of marketing mix, it signifies towards the convenience of the customers, that whatever you do, whichever resources, whichever channels you are resorting to, they should actually result into the convenience of your customers. So the sole objective or the ultimate goal should always be to ensure the customer's convenience, and that should be the top priority. And that is why when we convert, when we translate into the customer's perspective, 4 P's becomes 4 C's, and here the place becomes the customer's convenience. So keeping that in mind, we'll talk about what is the difference between the supply chain and distribution channel. We all know that supply chain is a system by which an organization or a company is actually acquiring raw material, they are producing products, and eventually they are delivering the products and services to their customers. So it not only includes the delivery of the products, but also includes the acquisition of raw material, the production process, and then eventually ensuring the delivery of the products to their customers, and also ensuring the services to their customers. So supply chain, in a way, it is a broader term which actually encompasses this very objective, this very task of the channels of distribution, that is distributing the products. So supply chain management, in a way, is helping us to increase the efficiency of logistics services by the way of minimizing inventory and moving goods efficiently from producer to the end users, or what you can say from one place to another, that is the place of production to the place of consumption. So their objective is to ensure the timely supply of goods from producer to the ultimate users, and in that process, when they have to ensure that it should be delivered on time, they do ensure that the production should also be done on time, and there the role of supplier becomes very important. And that is why when we say supply chain management, it is a broader term than what we consider here as channels of distribution. So on their way from producer to end users and consumers, the product is actually completing a journey, and in that journey it is passing through a series of marketing entities, and they are known as the marketing channels that we have already discussed in detail. So now when we have to make a distinction between the supply chain and marketing channel, the very definition of supply chain itself is giving a true reflection of what exactly we mean by the term supply chain management. So supply chain management is actually including distribution activity as one of the important component of its total activities performed, because it not only ensures the timely distribution, but it also ensures the timely production. Because unless you produce it on time, how can you deliver it to your customers on time? So this is what this supply chain management do, and this is something which makes the supply chain management a much broader concept than marketing channels. And the second thing is that marketing channels are purely customer facing. They are only looking at the customers, because they have to ensure the delivery of products from producers to the ultimate customers, or what you call as end users. Wherein in case of supply chain management, they have two phases. One is towards customers, another is towards producer. So they are also making it sure that the producers are in a position to produce the products on time, and in that process they have to ensure that the supply of raw material is also done on timely basis. So marketing channels are purely customer facing, whereas the supply chain management is a broader term, broader idea, wherein it is not only looking at the customers but also at the producers. Marketing channels are basically the part of marketing mix, we all understand, and that is why it is regarded as third P in the total list of marketing mix, which is broadly called as, which is called as an acronym. When we have to indicate it, we call it 4 Ps. So this is what is the clear distinction between the supply chain management and channels of distribution. At times students are getting confused that supply chain management and channels of distribution, they are the same. You can if you are considering them to be the same, you are actually committing a mistake, because supply chain management is a broader perspective, is a broader term. It encompasses several other activities than channels of distribution. So they do include channels of distribution, but that is only one part of their functions which they are performing. So we should be very much clear about what exactly supply chain management is. When we talk about the supply chain management and look at its second phase, which is looking at the producers, of course there is a term called sourcing which comes in front of us, that from where to source, from where to collect the raw material, from where to get the goods. And here the term of global sourcing comes into picture, that whether we should go for the local sourcing or we should go for global sourcing, or there has to be a combination of global and local, and it can be called as global sourcing, wherein you are not only relying on global sourcing, but we do have some resources available at local level to ensure that there is no shortage of the supply of raw material. So global sourcing refers to buying of the raw materials or components which goes into a company's products from around the world, and not just from the headquarters country, that you are ensuring that the company is headquartered in one country and from there only we are sourcing everything. So that doesn't mean global sourcing. Global sourcing means you are buying raw material from different parts of the world, you can say, or you can say around the world. From wherever you get the best quality of raw material, you try and buy. You ensure that you are getting the best quality of raw material into your production process, no matter from where it is coming. But of course, when we are doing so, we have to understand the transportation cost of raw material as well. And that is why some of the companies, when they are finding the best of raw material in a particular country, in a particular region, then what they are doing, they are actually basing their production process into that particular region or into that particular country. For instance, if I have to give an example, which is a most popular example of it, when we talk about Starbucks, it is buying its coffee from locations like Colombia and Guatemala. They are buying the best of coffee beans from these locations, because they have to ensure that the best quality coffee is coming to the table. So Starbucks is actually doing so. So this is an example of global sourcing. And when we talk about the advantages of global sourcing, the first and the foremost advantage which comes in front of us is the quality of the raw material which you are getting. So it means we are getting the best available quality of that particular raw material. So why to go for making a compromise and taking an inferior goods as a raw material? So if you are a quality oriented company, then of course global sourcing is something which should be the norm of your company. So the advantage of global sourcing are of course the quality and lower cost. So you have to ensure that quality, the best quality at possible minimum cost if you are getting, then of course you should go for the global sourcing. So global sourcing is possible to the extent that the world is flat. For instance, buying highest quality cocoa beans for making chocolate, or buying aluminium from Iceland, where it's cheaper because it's made using free geothermal energy. So if somebody is buying aluminium from Iceland, then of course there is a reason behind that. Why I'm going for this global sourcing? Why not to buy aluminium from Iceland when it is available at a possible minimum cost? And that too, the best quality you are getting at a possible minimum cost. So of course it is also going to reduce your transportation. It is going to cover up your transportation cost as well. So there are two ways. One is if you are going for transporting it to the nearest possible country, that can also be done. Or the second way is, why not base your manufacturing unit into that particular country where the best quality of raw material is available at a possible minimum cost. Then of course that is going to reduce your cost of production, and eventually it would reflect into your profitability, that is called increased profitability. So this is the advantage of global sourcing. And when you are making global sourcing decisions, again another you have to make another choice. There is another choice in front of you, whether you should go for relying on single sources, that is called sole sourcing, or you should go for multiple sourcing, that is called multi-source suppliers or multiple suppliers. So you have to make a choice between the two, whether to purchase everything from one supplier, the entire requirement of your raw material from one supplier exclusively. Of course, that has also some benefits, but at the same time it involves some amount of risk as well. So you have to make a choice as a marketer when you are going for global sourcing decision, whether to go for sole sourcing or we should go for multiple sourcing. I'll be telling you what are the pros and cons of global sourcing and what are the pros and cons of within global sourcing when we go for multiple sourcing and single sourcing, or what we call as sole sourcing. So the advantage of sole sourcing is that the company can very often get a lower price by giving all of its volume to one supplier. So you can get the benefit of bulk purchase, because you are actually relying on single sourcing. So your entire order in bulk is being placed to one vendor. So of course that supplier is going to pass on some benefit of bulk purchase. So that can be called as one of the significant external economies which you are ensuring by the way of relying on sole sourcing. So those marketers who are actually resorting to or adopting to sole sourcing, or going for having the single source of for supply of raw material, they have this as a valid reason, that when we are buying in bulk quantities, then of course the price is comparatively on the lower side, and we can of course make a negotiation with the supplier that since we are buying in bulk, why don't you offer us some benefit or some discount. So that can also be availed by you as a marketer. On the other hand, when you are using multiple suppliers, it is also giving a more flexibility to you. There is some advantage involved into this also. You are having some amount of flexibility. For instance, if there is a natural disaster or there is some other kind of disruption at one of your suppliers, then you as a company may turn to your other suppliers to meet your requirements. So it is just like not putting all your eggs in one basket. You are actually diversifying your risk of loss of supply, or if there is some disruption into the supply of raw material at one place, at one center, then of course the other suppliers are there to ensure the continuous supply or uninterrupted supply of raw material. So this is another perspective of looking at it when we have to make a choice between single sourcing and multiple sourcing. So single sourcing is offering you an advantage of buying the products at a comparatively lower cost, because you can get the benefit of bulk purchase. On the other hand, when you are going for multiple sourcing, you can diversify your risk. You can ensure that there is no impact of any kind of disruption or any kind of natural disaster into your supply chain management. So there is an uninterrupted supply of raw material to your factory when it comes to a selection of multiple sources or multiple sourcing. So while talking about the global sourcing and distribution, there are some advantages which are coming with the sole sourcing, whereas there are certain other advantages which are actually coming with the multiple sourcing. So you have to, as a marketer, you have to weigh both of them, and you have to make a choice between the two, that whether I should go for sole sourcing or I should go for multiple sourcing. So let's talk about the advantages which you can get when you are adopting sole sourcing for your purchase of raw materials into your factory. So the advantage is, the first and the foremost advantage is that you can get price discounts which is actually based on higher volume. Since you are making a purchase in bulk, then of course you can place an order, and you can negotiate that since I am buying in bulk, why don't you offer us some discount. And even the producers, the suppliers, they also don't hesitate in offering some benefit to you, because for them, of course, that carrying those inventories may involve some amount of cost. So to ensure the elimination of that carrying cost, then some part of that carrying cost or the benefit which the company is making by the way of selling the raw material in bulk quantities, they can pass on some benefit to you. So price discounts which are related to higher volume, that can always be availed when we go for sole sourcing. This is the first benefit. Second benefit is, since you are reflecting your loyalty towards your supplier, then of course there is some reward for your loyalty during tough times. So the supplier is ensuring that since you are relying on us heavily and you are actually going for sole sourcing, then it is also their duty, although it is not on paper, it is a moral duty which they are performing. And in practical life we find that suppliers do understand that since we are buying everything from them, then they do offer some rewards for loyalty during tough times. When the company is having some disruption in the supply of raw material, then they are passing on that benefit to us. Then the third benefit is, since we are going for the exclusive purchase from one vendor, this exclusivity brings differentiation. So you are regarded as, when it comes to treating you as a customer, you are regarded as one of the premium customers, because you are exclusively buying from one supplier, that is sole supplier. So they are actually giving some benefit to you. But if you go in economic terms, the first and the foremost benefit is price discounts which you can avail on account of negotiating, on account of higher volume you can avail that discount, and that is why we go for sole sourcing. And if we have to speak about the several other advantages, greater influence with the supplier is always a single liner used for defending sole sourcing as a good option, as a better choice by the marketers nowadays. So marketers may make a choice that yes, I am going for sole sourcing, and to defend that, to support that, they can give these reasons to you that yes, we are going for, in global sourcing we are going for sole sourcing, we are adopting single supplier, single point for supply of our raw material, cause we have these benefits from them. So this is one aspect of looking at this global sourcing and distribution option, where you make a choice that yes, I will be going for sole sourcing or I will be going for single sourcing. So these are the advantages which you may get. Now when we talk about the disadvantages which are linked to this, because when we are looking at the advantages, we cannot ignore the disadvantages or demerits of sole sourcing, that if you are going for sole sourcing, what can be the possible risk. So let us have a look at those risks involved. First one is the higher risk of disruption. It is just like putting all your eggs in one basket. You are not diversifying your risk, you are actually relying on one supplier only, and God forbid if there is a disruption at the end of that supplier, then there is a higher risk of disruption. Your production process may take a halt and you may run short of the goods which you have to supply to your customers. The second is, the supplier has more negotiating power on price. At times it is going negative. When your supplier is not morally very strong, or they are not ethically very strong, or very what you can say is they are not very ethical into their behavior, then they can use this as a tool for twisting your arm. So that arm twisting can be done by supplier, because supplier has more negotiating power on your price. They can say that if you want the supply, we will be charging higher price. So this disadvantage can be there, but of course once this kind of disadvantage comes to the surface, then you can take a decision that in future or henceforth we shall not be relying on sole sourcing. You have all the right to go for having multiple vendors for your supplies. So these are two disadvantages which can be counted here, which can be accounted for when we talk about the possible disadvantages of single sourcing or sole sourcing. But my dear students, when we go for sole sourcing, the benefit of price discount is always something which is very lucrative in the eyes of marketers, and they always try to go for sole sourcing because there they are having price discounts. So this becomes first choice, because the discount is reducing your cost of production. So you are actually ensuring the efficient and effective production process, not only doing production on time, but also ensuring the production at a possible minimum cost. Now coming to the multiple sourcing, what are the advantages of multiple sourcing? the second choice. So once we are able to count the advantages and disadvantages related with both of the options, then we can, of course, depending upon our conditions, depending upon the type of products we are dealing with, depending upon the resources we have with us, we can make a choice that for me multiple sourcing is a better option. For you it can be a single sourcing, depending upon the type of products you are dealing, and also your storage capacity, how much stock you can maintain, what is your minimum and maximum level of stock, what to what extent you can ensure the uninterrupted supply of raw material to your factory. So when we talk about the advantages of multiple sourcing, it is offering you more flexibility in times of disruption. Of course, that was the disadvantage in single sourcing, but it becomes advantage here when we talk about multiple sourcing. Second is the negotiating, you are negotiating lower rates by pitting one supplier against another. You can tell, you can make, you can find a competitive price here also. You can negotiate with the vendors that if you are offering me at this price, the other partner is also ready to offer me at the same price. So why should I buy from you? And this actually leads to the competitive pricing. You can negotiate lower rates by pitching one supplier against another. You can of course talk to them. Wherein when we talk about the disadvantages of multiple sourcing, the quality across suppliers may be less uniform. You may not find the uniform quality of supplies which you are getting from multiple sources. There can be some variation, there can be some differences, and that can affect your production process, that may affect your quality of product which you are producing. But that can be ensured by strictly setting some standards that we want the raw material of this specification. That can be done. There is also less influence with each supplier, because this was the advantage in case of single sourcing, that you had great influence with the supplier. Here you may have less influence with each supplier, because they are not concerned with you, because they are only part of the total supplies, they are not the total supply. And there can be a disadvantage of higher coordination and management cost. You have to coordinate with multiple vendors at a time, so that may also involve some amount of cost. So it is up to you to decide which sourcing strategy a company selects or chooses. It can reduce risk by visiting its suppliers regularly to ensure the quality of products and processes, the financial health of each supplier, and the supplier's adherence to laws, safety, regulation, and ethics. So these are the points which you should always keep in mind, whether you go for single sourcing or multiple sourcing. In all options, in both the options, you need to ensure that the quality of product and process should not be compromised. The financial health of suppliers should be sufficient, it should be good enough to rely on them, and of course their adherence to laws, safety, regulations, and ethics is something which is very important. So when we are selling internationally, it means we are considering how your company will distribute its goods in the market. When we talk about developed countries, they have of course good infrastructure. They have passable roads that can accommodate the high end transportation vehicles. Retailers who display and sell products, they have reliable communication infrastructure and media choices. So depending upon the country's infrastructure, you have to decide your channels of distribution. And of course in developed countries, you are having significant or robust infrastructure with which you can ensure the timely distribution. But when we look at emerging markets, on the other side of the coin, they often have very fragmented distribution networks. They have limited logistics and much smaller retail outlets. So when we talk about emerging markets, we find door to door peddlers, we find street vendors, we find hole in the wall shops. They are actually playing a significant role or much larger role in emerging market countries, whereas in case of developed countries, their role is very limited, because of course the area is very wide, and these vendors cannot survive in that competition of big fishes which are actually working in the market as a vendor. So we have to understand that the scenario also matters a lot. The market in which you are dealing, with which you are dealing, that also affects your distribution strategy. So you have to make a choice, you have to make a management choice, you have to make a choice of partner, whether you have to acquire, whether you have to have your own infrastructure for delivering the products, or you have to go for having a joint venture, find a partner for yourself, or you should build from scratch. So, it is your choice. So, there are typically, if you conclude this entire distribution management system, there are typically 3 distribution strategies when you are entering a new market. First is, your company may go for having a joint venture or partnership with a local company. You are going to another country, so it is better to have a channel partner, distribution channel partner there only. So, you can have a joint venture with them, and you can ensure the timely supply of goods and services to them. Second is that you are acquiring a local company to have immediate access to large scale distribution. So, you are actually acquiring a local company, you are not partnering with them, rather you are acquiring a local company to have immediate access to large scale distribution. Or third can be you can build your own distribution channel from scratch. And of course, if you are going for the third one, it will involve huge amount of investment by you on account of distribution strategy. So, what is the scenario? What are the trends, the key facts and trends I will be presenting before you, what is going on globally. So, companies, what they are doing, they are using intermediaries when they are they lack financial resources to carry out direct marketing. If a company has significant funds available with us, they can go for having their own distribution channel, or they can ensure the timely distribution of the products to their customers. They actually adopt direct marketing. But when direct marketing is not feasible, then of course they have no other option but to resort to different channels. So, they can earn more by doing so. They can go for having multiple channel partners, they can go for having channel partners to ensure timely delivery. The most important functions which is performed by these intermediaries are basically information, promotion, negotiation, ordering, financing, risk taking, physical possession, payment and title. So, these are the activities performed by these vendors which make them very significant in this entire distribution process. So, it is the duty which is being performed by them that makes them very significant. So, because of your contribution to the process, you are becoming significant. So, these channel partners are becoming very much important. Why? Because they are performing these many activities. They are actually shouldering the responsibility of not only distribution of the products, but also promotion, negotiation, ordering, financing, risk taking and many more activities which they are performing. So, manufacturers have many alternatives for reaching a market. They can sell direct, as I told you, they can have 2 or 3 level channels. Deciding which type of channel to use, it calls for analyzing customers' needs. Who are your customers? You have to establish your channel objectives, you have to identify and evaluate the major alternatives available in that market. You have to understand that including the types and numbers of intermediaries involved in the channel. When you are doing so, you have to basically evaluate everything in the market, starting from your customer needs to ensure to establish what is your channel objective. And of course, identification and evaluation of the major alternative is the important function which you have to perform while going for having an effective channel partner for your production, for your products. So, effective channel management basically calls for making a selection of intermediaries and training them, motivating them. So, you have to train them, you have to motivate them that this is what is my goal. So, the goal is to build a long term partnership which will be profitable for all channel members. Now, the trend which we talk about, the global trends in distribution strategy, marketing channels are basically characterized as by continuous and sometimes dramatic changes. So, 3 of the most important trends which you will find across the globe is the growth of vertical marketing systems. You will find vertical marketing systems, you will find horizontal marketing systems, and third one is you will find multiple channel or multi-channel marketing systems. So, e-commerce, it has become firmly established as most of the companies, they have adopted brick and click channel systems. So, customers are actually going for finding a product online, and then they can also make a visit to a showroom. So mobile commerce, which is also called as selling via smartphones, it is also gaining significant importance, and it is now the new reality of the marketing activities. So some consumers, they engage in showrooming, what we call. They go for showrooming, and by which they are actually they shop in stores to inspect the products. They are basically making an inspection to understand the quality of the product, and eventually they are buying online to seek a lower price. So time belongs to integration. So to conclude this topic, I would say that you have to go for making use of integrated channels of distribution. So channel integration must recognize the distinctive strength of online, offline and mobile selling, because your ultimate goal is to maximize your joint contributions. So with this, I am concluding this topic of channels of distribution. I hope you must have enjoyed this very segment of my lectures on marketing management. Thank you so much.